single stakeholder group internationally? So is there a real drive for this? And then the fourth one is about feasibility. And that's about, can a technically sound solution be found within the time and resources available and not adversely impact on the project? So we don't want to spend all of our time on one issue, which if it's very complex, we could find ourselves in. We want to try and resolve as many as we can within the resources we have. So we've prioritized those issues that rate most highly across all of the criteria. And as part of the consultation, we asked the question about whether this is the right way to prioritize and whether we've got the right shortlist of issues. And these are the issues that we have, the NPO specific issues that we have shortlisted for potential inclusion in the guidance. And in the rest of part 2, there are deeper dives into this issue to kind of get underneath the skin of it. But I just wanted to just pick out a few of these just to give you a bit of a flavour. So we're proposing to include non-exchange revenue. That might not be a term that you're familiar with, but in this topic, we would include grants received, donations, gifts in kind, and services in kind. And based on our understanding of the issue, we would cover when these types of revenue should be recognised and how do you determine the value for gifts in kind and services in kind. We would also cover disclosures in this. So just to give you a flavour of what was in there. Just another example, we're also proposing to look at the classification of expenses. So, and that's about what sort of analysis of expenses should be used. International standards allow analysis by nature or function. The questions we'll be looking at is, should there be defined categories for non-profit organisations? Are they different? And do we prefer one analysis over another? And we also kind of look at measurement of tangible assets, and one of the big issues there is about impairments and how to calculate impairments. So there's quite a range of topics there. And just to recap, we have identified these issues because they are prevalent. There are consequences for readers if they're not addressed. There is a demand globally, we believe, and we think that we can address these within the project resources. So again, the consultation paper asks questions about whether we've got the right issues here. So this is quite encompassing, but what we want to focus on in our next set of questions is around how we've got the long list of issues. Do those issues kind of resonate with you, and how are we prioritizing the ones that we spend our time on? So the questions for this topic area are, what are the most significant accounting issues in your jurisdiction? The second question is, if you look at the top 3 financial issues in your jurisdiction, why are they the most important to resolve? What's driving that? And then the third question is about, how will common solutions help improve accountability and decision making? So if we could solve an issue that's really important to you, what difference would that make? So those are the 3 questions that we're looking to cover. As before, Siganthi will push you into your groups, and you'll just have just over 20 minutes to discuss the topic. Everyone, I hope you had some good discussions in your group, and we'd love to hear some of the highlights of that. So perhaps in the sort of the top 3 issues that in your discussion could come back through the report backs, that would be great. I'm going to go through room at a time. I'm going to start with Joyce, if I may. Joyce, could you confirm the question that you had, and who's going to speak on behalf of your group? Joyce.
Thank you so much, Karen. Our question was, what are the most significant accounting issues in your jurisdiction. And we have Zia from Afghanistan who's going to summarize our discussion.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. So the question was, what are the most significant accounting issues in your jurisdiction? We were joined by two country members from Bangladesh and Afghanistan. There were some common issues relating to the accounting issues with Bangladesh and Afghanistan as well.
Zia, we've lost you. Would you mind turning your
he seems to be on mute.
You've gone on mute. And you're back on mute again. Great.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry for that. So we were joined by two country members from Afghanistan and Bangladesh, and we have some common issues, but as well as there were some different issues on the country context as well. I'm highlighting few from Afghanistan. Since Afghanistan is not implementing or even not using not requiring any other companies or sector to use the international financial reporting standards as well. And since this would be a very new thing, the IFR4NPO, because we do not have the IFRSs right now. But since there is a lack of awareness in the government side, on the donor side as well, we have a huge lack of professional accountants, which is also a huge issue while we are using the international accounting standards. So a lack of professional accountant is also an issue. Reporting requirement is also different by government. And we do not have a uniform set of criteria for income and expenditure. Because if you see the government, they require all the companies. It includes the NPO sector, the NGO sector, and all other multinational companies to report their income annually, and it's on cash basis. Even the multinational companies who are required by their head offices to prepare the statements as per the IFRS, but they are required by the government of Afghanistan to submit their report in the cash base of accounting. So there is again a huge problem or a huge when it comes to reporting to the government. As I said, recognition criteria of income and expenditure is another issue, because if one of the examples by one of the team member put was like, if the advances to contractor, it happens, these are reported as expenditure, and since these are on cash based accounting, these are not like the advances are not being incurred. From the Bangladesh side, there were some issues of the uniformity. The lack of uniformity is also in Bangladesh as well, because regulators check is very different in Bangladesh. They have even highlighted the professional accountants, although there isn't a lack of professional accountants in Bangladesh, but there are a lot of NGO sector who are not hiring the professional accountants because of the high cost. So this might be one of the reason. The related party issues, subsidiary and donations in kind or cash in kind, the recognition of these transactions is vary from organization to organization, and hence it can be an issue, accounting issue for the Bangladesh sector as well. If I have missed anything, so one of my colleagues can jump in. Otherwise, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zia. And as before, if there's anything anyone wants to contribute, please use the chat to add to what's been there. Thank you very much, Zia. I'm going to turn now to Sarah. I think your group had the same question. Could you just confirm that, and who's going to speak on behalf of your group?
Yeah, we had the same question, thank you. And Najir has volunteered, and I think what we'd say is that we've covered issues that people will resonate with lots of people. So I'm sure Najir will be able to present those, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So I think some of the key issues that we found commonality in is with regard to admin expenditure. What really is admin expenditure? There's only one particular statute in our country, the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, which has highlighted what admin expenditure is, and it's a very restricted list, and of course not applicable to those not registered under this law, and that's a small segment which is registered. So admin expenditure, and the other being fundraising costs and accounting for that. But an even bigger issue that people seem to be facing is with how to book grants which come with the returnable component, meaning that if there is any unspent amount, it will be returned to the donor. There has even been a Delhi High Court judgment in this regard, which says it can be booked as a liability in your balance sheet and not treated as income. But this is a major issue of contention here in this country. Can every grant be booked as a liability in the balance sheet and not at all referred to in the income and expenditure statement? And only if an organization also has a receipt and payment statement, then perhaps you can record this as a receipt. But most people follow the financial accounting system of having the balance sheet and the income and expenditure. So this is just not shown as an income. It could be several million Indian rupees, and you're actually showing yourself in a loss. It is reflected as a liability in your balance sheet. So where should a grant with the returnable components sit really? And if it sits in the balance sheet, then should it come with some notes from the auditor that it's actually a grant, and because we didn't know what part of this grant is going to be income. So this is the big piece in the whole discussion. Tejas raised a very important point in our group about the confusion when there are shared costs as to what part of the costs can be booked under admin, especially when 2 or 3 partner organizations are working together. And where do you allocate admin cost in whose account? And so there's quite a bit of a nightmare with that. And coming to the second point that we discussed, donor versus regulator, I think we agreed on the idea that donors look at reporting purely from their money that is given and has it been optimally used. Whereas the regulator looks at it only from the legal framework. Has it been done as per perhaps the income tax law, which says that you must utilize 85% of your income in any financial year on your organization. Now, what part goes to admin, the regulator is not really concerned on that. Have you spent your minimum 85%? Whereas the donor has a very different perspective. The donor says, I mean, for the 100 that I gave you, how much went into admin? How much went into travel costs? How much went? And so the needs of the donor was, and therefore the feeling was that even if the donors come on a common platform in terms of their agreeability on that, it could be at least one step forward for us. And then finally, the issue around the international standards itself. Yes, we all agree that it is very promising, and it'll be more acceptable if it is branded properly and marketed properly. We need to let people know, all stakeholders know that there have been international discussions that have gone into it, how much man hours have gone into it, and it has received international acceptability. And once that is put through, then I think most countries look at things from, let's think globally, let's act locally. We can work along that the international thought has gone into it, and there is international acceptability. And if there is international acceptability, local acceptability will more or less come along.
Brilliant.
If I missed out on anything, my colleagues will probably put it in the chat.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nasir. Very, very clear in terms of what came out of your group, and very interesting. And as Sarah said, in some ways, no surprises there, but very good. Can I turn to Rue, the next area? Can I turn to Nazir? Can you feedback your question and who's going to speak on?
So our question was on the top 3 accounting issues that seem to be of significant importance to the group, and why they are important. And Shabna will talk on behalf of our group.
Thank you very much. Shabna?
From Afghanistan. I want to talk on behalf of my team. First question was about non-financial reporting. For financial reporting, you're having proper measurements or bases or indicators to calculate ratios in these things. But for non-financial reporting, when we do analysis or when we do analysis or measuring, so we don't have any proper indicator or we don't have any basis for that. So it's more important to also have a proper system or specific standardization system for measuring that side, or especially in asset or in these things. And the second one was about restricted and unrestricted funds. We have different policies, procedures regarding recognizing or regarding how we are charging this restricted and unrestricted funds, which is completely quite different from the donors, that they have different policies, requirements on that. And also it was about indirect cost recovery. As we are charging, most of the companies, they are charging indirect cost recovery percentages upon their expenditure to record or recognize revenue, which is not constant. It means that they are applying the different percentage rates upon their donors based on the expenditure, when it's getting increased or decreased. So being in alignment, being same page, it would be better to have a proper policy procedure for that as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, because Samantha or Nazir?
Yeah.
That's fine, go ahead.
That's good.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shabna, for that. That was great, and interesting to hear kind of your perspective on the top issues and why they're there. Great, and as I say, if anyone wants to add, please use the chat to do that. So I'm going to turn now to the fourth group, and Richard, could you introduce your group and who's going to speak on that?
Thank you, Karen. Our question for our group was the third question, which was, how will common solutions to your accounting issues improve accountability and decision making? And are there any solutions that would support other NPO improvement projects? And Anwar was speaking on behalf of our group. Thank you, Anwar.
Thank you. Good morning. In our group, we have Madan, Harsh, and also Rashmi Giri. We had a very good discussion about how these common issues can be addressed. One of the accountability issue in our group, first Mr. Harsh discussed that a common framework or common accounting report is important, but he raised a question whether mid-level NGOs, they have the sufficient capacities to address those solutions. So this is one of the questions raised by him. So another questions also came because of, especially Mr. Madan tried to answer that. Despite this capacity issue among the NGOs or among the mid-level NGOs or small NGOs, still whether it is mid or bigger, they are doing a series of reporting. So there is a need for all class of NGOs that at least for the financial management statement or reporting purpose, there should be a general purpose reporting should be one, whether it is big NGO or small NGO. Question is, maybe the bigger NGOs, they can apply full set of application of the financial reporting standard. The small NGOs, at least they can do the very basic, at least balance sheet, income statement and the cash flows. So that can reduce their time. The another question also for the applicability, the questions we have raised, how he, especially Mr. Harsh, very good question, because looks like he's a pragmatic people. He raises that question, how the local legislators, especially if there are 10 legislators or 20 legislators in India and Bangladesh, how the congruence or how they compliance with their reporting, where will be the trade-off? I think that we have discussed that there is a trade-off point, of course, because in the last speaker from Bangladesh, Mr. Azhar already mentioned, the legislator, they can see how their financial reporting standard or how their guidelines for the annual financial statement. They can see how IFR4NPO provided a guideline, so how they can buy IFR4NPO. So in that sense, one of the recommendations, I think Mr. Madan also clearly tried to explain that one of the exit or way forward is that the legislator, they can be involved in the process of the guidelines. So still there is a 4 years time. At that time, if legislator will see that if they will buy the international framework, their reporting or their monitoring will be more simplified. It should be comparable. So in that sense, I think we can get approval or endorsement from legislator. The bigger questions, I think at the end of our discussion, Mrs. Rashmi Giri also tried to give some inputs, because for only asset, according to her, she is maintaining a lot of inventory for assets for this, asset for accrual basis, assets for project, asset for corporations. So in that sense, I think if there is some sort of common recognition, whether it is assets, whether it is expense, whether it is grants. I think the last speaker also tried to mention the grant recognition, and where grant will be in the financial statement or grants will go to the balance sheet, and how far the grants will be recognized. That area also need to be addressed. And this grants recognition is equally important for the bigger NGO, complex NGO, international NGO, even for a small NGO in a village, because they are running their organization with the grants. So grants recognition should be very uniform. Asset recognition should be uniform. In actually broader question in our group is the accountability framework. The accountability framework, I'm telling you, this is very important for the NGOs. So in the accountability framework, asset recognition is one of the weaknesses we see in Bangladesh, because some of the executive directors, they are not disclosing the value of assets on the assets in the balance sheet, so that if there is a question of dissolution of NGO, the arbitrator, the auditors are facing problem how they will distribute assets. The last question came about the donor.
I'm going to need to hurry you up, Anwar, because I need to get through a bit more material before we finish.
So donor representation should be in this sort of consultation, because the donor will play important role to buy this international framework. Thank you our team for their very lively discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anwar. Some really interesting things that you pulled out of there, and also some things in common with the other groups, which is really interesting. Look, I want to thank you all again very much for your contributions to that discussion. Some really, really good feedback there. I'm just going to hand over to Sam now to conclude our session today.
Great, thank you, Karen. So just to echo Karen's thank you, it's been really stimulating and interesting hearing your views and comments today, really rich discussions. And it's really given us a colour and a regional view on some of the issues that we've discussed. We've now touched on 3, we've done East Africa, South Asia, and we started North America yesterday. And it's just really interesting seeing the different flavours and colours that are coming out from the same questions. I do want to reiterate, though, as Karen said at the beginning, that these conversations don't constitute a formal response to the consultation paper. We're getting a general feel, and hopefully the discussions today have helped you clarify some of the proposals and your view on them. So the next really important step is for you, and I'd really encourage you to go ahead and submit your own formal response, either as an individual or as an organization. So as a reminder, the steps are up on the screen, the closing dates, I should say. So 30th of July for part 1 and 24th of September for part 2. So there is time, but you'll find it easier, especially for part 1, while the issues are fresh in your mind from our discussions this week and last week. So on to the next slide. We've tried to make it as easy as possible to submit. So there are 3 different ways that you can share your views. And if you go to the website, www.IFR4NPO, all the information is there. If your organization already has a process for submitting comments on accounting standards, like if you're an accounting body, then you can submit a comment letter in the normal way via the website. If you'd like to submit a response as an organization, or if you'd like to collaborate with others or work offline, option 2 is to download a Word template, which has all the questions and your data. We do collect data about which country you're in and which type of stakeholder you're from, because that's really important for our analysis. So in the Word document, you can put that there, enter the answers to the questions, and then upload the completed document via the website. Then the third option is great if you're submitting a response as an individual. We've got an online survey. So there are actually separate surveys for part 1 and part 2. And once you've started and input your personal information, you can save it and come back to it until you're ready to submit it. So we've tried to make it really user-friendly. So I really hope that you feel motivated and confident to submit a response, even if you've never done something like this before in an accounting consultation. And as Anwar was mentioning, and Noshir actually, this credibility and the international acceptability is really important. And a large number of responses from all regions of the world will add to the quality and the credibility of the guidance that we're able to produce. So I'd really like to encourage you to do that. So next slide, what will actually happen to your responses? So we'll be analysing them in the later half of 2021, and we'll be using the information there to shape the development of the draft guidance from Q4, as you can see there, Q4 this year. In the same way that we created interest in advance of the launch of the consultation paper, in 2022, we'll be doing outreach to stakeholders in relation to the issues being discussed in the advisory groups, discussion in the online forum, and country level meetings. So there'll be continuing outreach and engagement with stakeholders. So then it will depend a bit on the quantity of responses, but our hope is to issue the draft guidance for comment in mid-2023, as you can see there. So how can you stay connected and engaged during the process? This is the last of our 2 regional meetings, but it's not the end of the conversation. So please do subscribe to our newsletters. And there's I'll put the links in the chat. The newsletter come, and they'll be in the follow-up email as well, actually. They come every 2 months or so. Or might be a specific message if there's something specific to your region. You can join the conversation in the online forum. Let me put that in the chat as well here. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. That's the online forum, where we've got a series of hot topics. We're running a hot topic series that focuses on the 14 issues, 4 from part 1 and 10 from part 2. And you can also check out all the different resources on the website, like videos that cover some of these issues that we've been discussing and sharing about together. And please follow us on social media. So if you comment or like or share our posts, they get seen by more people, more voices are heard, and we build this snowball of credibility and acceptability. You can always email the project yourself at my own email address, which I'll also put in here. You're always welcome to get in touch with us there. And we'll be sending a short survey after this meeting, together with the links to the slide and the recordings, which will also go up on the website in the coming weeks. So if you have other colleagues in other parts of the world who you think would be keen to be invited to a similar event like this, but for another region of the world, please do let us know, or we'll send you a link to where you can send them so they can request an invitation. So we're at the hour. So once again, let me thank you for your time, your effort in preparing and reading, your insights and all the useful information you've shared with us today. Honestly, we really appreciate it and look forward to engaging with you as we continue this journey to develop the world's first internationally applicable financial reporting guidance. So last but not least, if it's possible to turn on your camera, and I would love to take a photo for social media. So if you turn on your camera, and I'll do 1, 2, 3, and we can have a smile. That will be super. Great, I can see some people joining. Great, so I'm going to take my glasses off so they don't reflect. 1, 2, 3, smile. Lovely, I've got it. Super, thank you so much, everybody. I think the moderators are going to stay on for a few minutes, and otherwise stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.